Hey guys, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about my top 10 interior offensive linemen in the 2024 NFL Draft. This is going to include guards and centers. I'm not going to break them up into their own separate videos because I think a lot of these guys, the centers can play guards and the guards can play centers. So I don't think it really matters too much. Now, before we get into it, a couple of announcements. Number one, be sure to sign up for Underdog Fantasy using my code JWAX to get double your initial deposit up to $100. With the Final Four, the women's Final Four coming up, NBA playoffs starting very soon, you guys can get in on the action in the higher, lower games, which are my favorite. So you guys can sign up using my code JWAC, help your guy out. Number two, we got to talk about a few honorable mentions. There are a number of guys. Now, Dominic Pooney is not going to make the list from Kansas. I have him listed with my tackles. So that's why he's not on here. He definitely would be in this list, but I've got him listed with the tackles because that is where he played most recently. Another guy that is sitting on the outside looking in, Tanner Bordellini from Wisconsin, is right there. We've got Drake Nugent, Layden Robinson, Isaiah Adams, Javion Cohen. So there's a few guys here that I do quite like that just didn't make the list. This is a very good offensive line class if you need it. Interior or you need tackles. We will be getting to the tackles very soon, but here are my top 10, starting off with number 10, and that is going to be Cedric Van Pran from Georgia. Now, you can't deny the size. He has incredible size, played around 315 pounds. He's a very good run blocker. He just clears out so much space in the middle of the field because he has such a big frame. He's got great footwork as well and pass protection and as a run blocker. You know, a lot of these guys, they like to stop moving their feet when they make contact. That's not the case when it comes to Van Pran. He keeps his feet moving, and he does a very good job at that. He's got good hand placement, and there's a lot to like about him, but he can be overly aggressive at times in terms of his run blocking. Something I said in my prospect spotlight video was that he can try and finish the play before he's even made contact, which is a bit of a concern. Like to see him do a better job at just toning back the aggression at times. There are a few of those guys like this in this class. And then athletically, I'm not super moved by him. He feels like a bit of a lumbering mover, not really the most fluid athlete in the world. He's got some inconsistencies in pass protection in terms of his stance and his hand placement. So there are some concerns I have there. I think he's probably going to be a third-round pick. I love the upside that he offers. I think he's got a really good frame, and there's a lot of center-needy teams. I think the Bears at pick 75 are a very good contender to take him. They haven't had a great center in a long time. He reminds me a lot of Lloyd Cushenberry. Cushenberry and him have very similar frames. Maybe not the most fluid movers, but they can impact the game in both the run and the pass. He's not a bad pass protector, just a little bit inconsistent. I think it can be coached up. He's my number 10 guy. At number 9, we've got Bo Limmer out of Arkansas. This was a guy that last summer I absolutely loved. He's a guy that has some versatility. Played at right guard last year because Arkansas had Ricky Stromberg playing center, who was a fantastic player, ended up getting selected by the Washington Commanders. This is a guy who's a very fluid athlete. He's got excellent hand placement as well in both areas of the game. And I think he's fundamentally sound in terms of his footwork, his hand placement. You love that about him. Now, I know a lot of people are going to point to the clip where T'Vondre Sweat beat him at the Senior Bowl. T'Vondre Sweat beat everyone at the Senior Bowl, and really that was one of his only bad reps of the week. After that, I thought he was very good, very consistent in terms of how he performed. I really liked what he showed at the Senior Bowl. Now, there are some concerns that I have. He's got a little bit of a smaller frame, shorter arms. He's not the biggest. He came in about 303 pounds, so you don't love that. Another guy, and the last two cons kind of go hand in hand. He could be overly aggressive and then lose balance and return in the run game. So I'd like to see him tone back that aggression a little bit. He's just looking to finish the play. Reminds me a little bit of John Michael Schmitz from last year. I think John Michael Schmitz was the better prospect, but Bo Limmer has similar size. They're both very fundamentally sound players. That's kind of where my thought process was when coming up with a comp for Bo Limmer. I quite like John Michael Schmitz. I thought he was pretty solid for the Giants. I think Limmer is one of the most slept on interior offensive linemen, probably going to be selected in the 4th round, but I think he should be taken a little bit higher. And number 8 is a guy that At first I just didn't get the hype with, and then as I kind of watched more tape, I'm like, oh, okay, he's very good. It's Christian Mahogany out of Boston College. This is one of the most violent football players you're going to see. He wants to take your head off. He wants to take you out of the game every time he blocks you. He's also got incredible size. He was built in a lab to play the guard position. He's fantastic in pass protection. He's got the recovery speed, the footwork to get back in the play. He's a good athlete, a great mover overall. There's a lot to like. His violence being the big one, and that's the big standout thing that separates him from me. He has some inconsistencies as a run blocker. There were so many times when I watched him in Boston College where he would just miss his assignment in the second level. On top of that, he does tend to bite on stunts and double moves in his pass protection. Now, he's got the recovery and the foot speed to put himself back in the play, which I do love about him, but it is something that continuously shows up on tape when you watch it. Reminds me a little bit of Robert Hunt, big guards at the position who are just violent. They can, protect in the pass. They're good run blockers. I like that about both of them. I think Mahogany is going to have a very nice career. Probably will be picked towards the back end of the third round. Maybe could sit for a year or two. Was coming off a season-ending injury in 2022. This is the last thing I want to mention about him. And he came back and was fantastic for Boston College. You love to see that from him. He is my number 8 interior offensive lineman. At number 7, we got Zach Zinter from Michigan. This is another guy that I really like. He's got very good size, sitting around 330. He's got incredible hand placement. And obviously, he played at Michigan. This is a team that wanted to run the ball, and he showed time and time again he was an excellent run blocker. Now, my issues with him, he's coming off an injury. He didn't get to play in the college football playoff. He didn't get to play and win a national championship with his guys because he had a leg injury that sidelined him. So how is that going to affect him? That's the concern because offensive linemen are so reliant on their lower body for their power. So that's something that we're going to monitor. His footwork and anchor as well were inconsistent. Really wasn't a big fan of that. And then his quickness, didn't feel like he was the most athletic guy in the world, but I still think he could have a very nice career. You could really swap him with Mahogany, or you could swap him with Limmer on my board. I think all those guys are very, very close to each other. I like Zinter, though, playing at a blue blood, a school that won the national championship, and he played a big role on that team. Reminds me of Ben Powers. I think they're very similar in terms of size, good run blockers, so I like that for both of them. At number 6 is another guy that I wasn't particularly high on, but then the more reading you do, the more you look at the numbers, you're like, oh yeah, this guy has a very real chance to be a very good player for a long time. That is Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. Now, right out of the way, we're going to talk about it. He played FCS competition. That is the big knock on his game for a lot of people. He's not playing against the best players in the world. I understand that. But this is a guy who comes with so much experience at the guard position. And when I mean a lot of experience, I mean 57 consecutive games played. He didn't miss a game due to injury. This guy is durable. You love that about him, but he just doesn't miss games. On top of that, he's got incredible athletic upside. His combine numbers were out of this world good. He's a fluid mover. He has great footwork, and he's excellent in the run game. He gets to the second level, he lands his blocks, and he holds his blocks until the last whistle. Similarly to Zinter, there are anchor and footwork concerns, mostly against bigger pass rushers, I noticed, but there were some issues there in terms of his pass protection. Didn't really love that from him. He reminds me a little bit of Joel Bitonio, another guy who's got very similar size to Mason McCormick. I really like McCormick. I think this is a guy who goes in the second round ultimately. The buzz on him has been through the roof. I think he's going to be a very good NFL player. And really close to him for that last 5th spot is Christian Haynes from UConn. I'm a big Christian Haynes guy. I think Christian Haynes is going to be very good. He's got the size. He's got pass and run protection abilities. He was very good at UConn in both areas, and he's got the athleticism. Size, production, athleticism. All 3 boxes are checked by Christian Haynes. The issues are against quicker guys. He did struggle in pass protection, had to recover a little bit more against these quicker pass rushers. For a quick guy to struggle against quicker guys, that was something I was like, okay, maybe. And then his timing concerns. He would just miss time blocks by about half a second over and over again in the run game. If he can improve on his timing in the run game, I think he could be a stellar athlete, a stellar football player for a long time for a team. Reminds me a little bit of Wyatt Teller from the Cleveland Browns, who I like quite a bit. Very good athlete, very good mover in both the pass and the run game. I love Christian Haynes. Again, similarly to McCormick, he's playing FCS competition, but we scout the player, not the helmet. Haynes checks all the boxes. I love what he can do for your team, and I think he's going to be a really good player. Another guy that I think is picked in the second round. At number 4, we have one of my guys in this class, and that is Cooper Beebe. I just don't get the hate around Cooper Beebe. This guy has been so productive at a number of positions for Kansas State. He played tackle. He played guard. He is a guy that checks all the boxes you look for in terms of his size. Yes, he's got shorter arms. I'm not worried about that. He's going to be playing on the inside anyways. It's fine. He's an absolute monster in the run game. This is another guy similarly to Christian Mahogany. He just wants to take your head out of the game. He is looking to land powerful blocks, and he shows it. He's excellent as a run blocker. He is very strong. He is very powerful for his position, and he's got a strong anchor. I really love what Cooper Beebe can do. This is a guy that I think is a second-round pick. I think PFF has him as their 113th ranked player, and that's just complete bogus to me. He is a lot better than the 117th best player in this draft class. I think I'm pretty close to having a top 50 grade on him. I love Cooper Beebe. Now, he can lunge at times in pass protection and in the run game, which leads to him playing off balance. I think that could be coached up, though. Reminds me a little bit of Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith has very similar size, is a very good run blocker, can play tackle, can play guard. Cooper Beebe is a guy that I think a lot of teams are going to fall in love with, a former wrestler as well. I love Cooper Beebe. He is my number 4 interior offensive lineman. Now, number 3, we've got Graham Barton from Duke. Now, maybe I could have included Dominic Pooney because I have Graham Barton in here, but I think Barton is more likely to play guard than I think there's a higher chance that Dominic Pooney plays tackle than Graham Barton plays tackle. That's a better way of putting it. Graham Barton provides so much line versatility. You could play him at tackle, guard, or center. I think he could play all 5 positions. I think he could do it very well. He's an incredible athlete who is an excellent run blocker. When I turned on his tape, I was just amazed at just how good he was finishing the plays. He is another guy you could lot up in that category who just wants to run you over. He is so powerful, so aggressive. I love that about Graham Barton. He consistently got beat on the inside, though. It seemed like every time a defender came with an inside move, he was beat. I'm not sure why it was. He just got beat inside over and over again on the tape that I watched. He also has the tendency to play with high pads, can be too physical at times, which leads to penalties and holdings, which I think he got away with a few in college. There's a lot to like, but there are some issues there. I think that can all be coached out of him. He reminds me of Elijah Vera Tucker in terms of, just put him on the offensive line, play him 1 through 5. We'll figure that out later. This is a guy that's going to be selected maybe back into the first round, early second round. He's top 40 talent without a question. He's my number 3 guy. At number 2, we've got Zach Frazier. This is one of my favorite players in the entire draft class. A former wrestler in high school, and he shows it. He's looking to finish off the plays. He's got size. He's got strength. He's a very good athlete. All the boxes are checked there. Why is he at number 2 and not number 1? He got easily moved at times against bigger rushers, and he would miss assignments in the run game. Really not a lot to not like with Zach Frazier. I think all the boxes are checked. He's a great athlete. He's got great footwork, great hand placement, great strength from his lower and upper body, plays with good pads. You'll love that about Zach Frazier. This is a guy who I think is going to have a very long NFL career, be a very good player. I think he should be a first-round pick. He reminds me of Ryan Kelly from the Colts, a guy who has had a very nice career in Indianapolis, been one of the better centers in football. I think Zach Frazier has that type of impact in the NFL. But number 1, it is Jackson Powers Johnson. You hear the name. He's one of the most powerful players in this class. He's got the size, who I believe he's around 330. Immediately, I'm in. On top of that, he played guard. He played center. He's great in the run game. He's great in the pass game. He's powerful. And he had a couple of missed assignments, and then some bigger defensive tackles were able to push him off. Very similar to Zach Frazier, But I think Jax Powers-Johnson, his size gives him the advantage there. And just his production. He was incredible for Oregon last season. You look at the numbers, you look at what he was able to do on one of the better teams in college football, and then you've seen how he's tested athletically. You saw how he looked at the Senior Bowl. Reminds me of Creed Humphrey, who has been maybe the best center in football since the second he was drafted. I think that's what a team is getting with Jackson Powers-Johnson. I think he's going to be a special player for a very long time, and he is my number 1 interior offensive lineman in the draft. But that's going to do it for me. Leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.